All right, today we're going to do something really fun. We're going to take a pretty basic web page and transform it from static to spectacular. We'll level up the design into something dynamic and professional looking, and we're going to do it using just 3 powerful CSS techniques. Let's dive in.
You know that feeling when you land on a website and it just pops? It feels alive, right? Well, that's not some kind of web design magic. It's just the power of really well-crafted CSS. And the best part is, the tricks behind that motion, that personality, and those pixel-perfect layouts are way more accessible than you might think. We're going to unlock a few of them right now.
Okay, so here's the mission. On the left, you see our starting point. It works, but it's a little, uninspired. And on the right, that's our goal, a polished, interactive, and beautifully aligned layout. Believe it or not, we're about to make that exact transformation in just the next few minutes. First up, let's add a little bit of magic. We're going to create this really stunning, melting image effect. Honestly, this is one of my all-time favorite ways to bring a professional touch of motion to a site, mostly because it's so unexpected and it adds this incredible layer of depth with just a few lines of code. So, what's the secret sauce here? It's the CSS transition property. And its beauty is all in its simplicity. Basically, a transition takes any change, like an image fading out, and instead of it happening instantly, it makes it happen smoothly over time. So you can say goodbye to those jarring, sudden changes and hello to fluid, elegant animation.
So here's our setup. It's pretty simple. We just have one image sitting directly on top of another one. This is what the user sees when the page first loads, just a static book cover. Nothing too fancy yet.
And boom, here's the after. When you move your mouse over the image, that top one just gracefully fades away, revealing the full-color version underneath. See, it's not just a swap. It's a smooth, melting reveal. It feels more like you're discovering something. So how do we actually pull this off? Let's break down the code. It's simpler than it looks. The real magic is the transition property. We're telling the browser, hey, watch for any changes to the opacity property, and when they happen, animate them over 4 seconds. We're also using ease in out, which just makes it feel more natural. It starts slow, speeds up a bit, then slows down at the end. Then, for the hover state, we just set the opacity to 0. That's it. When you mouse over, it turns transparent, creating that beautiful effect. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so we've got motion down. That's awesome. But now, let's give our site some real personality to match. And one of the fastest ways to completely change the vibe of a web page is with typography. It's time to move beyond the boring standard fonts and find a unique voice for our site. And I mean, just look at the difference here. It's night and day, right? On one side, you have a standard generic font. Sure, it's readable, but it's totally forgettable. On the other, we have Calligraphy, a Google web font. It's elegant, it's full of character, and it instantly gives the page this unique, custom-made feel. Now, you might be thinking, oh, using custom fonts must be really complicated. But I promise you, it's not. It's literally 3 simple steps. First, you find a font you love on a service like Google Fonts. Second, Google gives you one line of code, a link tag, to paste into your HTML. And finally, you just apply that font in your CSS with the font family property. That's the whole shebang. And here's the result. The custom font is embedded and rendered perfectly by the browser, giving the page a unique, handcrafted look. And this is so important because it means your site will look exactly how you designed it, no matter what fonts your user has installed on their own computer. Okay, we've got motion and we've got personality. Now we need a solid structure to hold it all together. And that brings us to our final technique. And honestly, this one might be the most powerful of them all. It's time to master modern layouts with something called the Flexible Box Layout Module, or as everyone calls it, Flexbox. Take a look at this. We've got 4 boxes of content, all perfectly aligned with even spacing, and they adapt to their container. Now seriously, if you've ever tried to build something like this with older CSS methods like floats, you know the absolute headache that can cause. Flexbox is a total game changer because it makes creating clean, modern layouts like this surprisingly simple. So what exactly is Flexbox? The best way to think about it is like the ultimate toolkit for arranging things in a container. It gives you this precise, reliable control to line things up, space them out evenly, and even change their order. And it doesn't care if you're laying them out horizontally or vertically. It was built from the ground up to create flexible and efficient layouts. Getting started with Flexbox is shockingly easy. It all begins with just a single line of code. You take your container element, whatever it is, and you simply set its display property to Flexbox. And that's it. That one line activates the entire Flexbox model for all the items inside that container.
Okay, so Flexbox is on. Now what? Well, now you just tell it which way you want your items to go. With Flexbox Orient, you can choose horizontal to line them up in a nice row, or you can choose vertical to stack them up in a column. This gives you immediate control over the main direction of your layout.
And this is where we add those final finishing touches. Using a really cool CSS selector called nth-child, we can target individual items inside our Flexbox container. It's kind of like saying, hey, give the first box this style, the second box that style, and so on. In this case, we're giving each box a different background color when you hover over it, making the layout not just structured but interactive too. All right, let's take a quick breath. We've just covered a ton of ground and added 3 incredibly powerful tools to your web design toolkit. Let's do a quick recap of what we've covered and how these techniques all work together to create a really spectacular experience. So, let's recap the whole journey. We started with CSS transitions to create those buttery smooth animations. Then we brought in web fonts to give our site a unique personality and voice. And finally, we used the power of Flexbox to build a modern, robust, and perfectly aligned layout. Each one of these is powerful on its own, but when you put them together, that's when you really elevate a design. So you've seen the code. You've seen how just a few lines of CSS can add motion, personality, and structure to a web page. All these techniques are right there at your fingertips. The only question left is, what amazing thing are you going to build with them?